Imagine this. One of 50 women selected globally for a Women in Sport leadership program. I know how many essays I wrote and how many interviews I gave to get that slot, and then being denied a visa to attend it. Now, imagine this. You're standing at the start line of a 70.3 event. What is a 70.3? It is a triathlon. What is a triathlon? A triathlon is a multidisciplinary sport which has three sports within it, usually in the sequence of swim, bike, run. The 70.3 per se is a middle distance triathlon, and in that, the aggregate sum of all of the legs that an athlete does is 70.3 miles. Now, I'll break it down to you in the metric system because obviously we understand the metric system so much better. So, that is a 1.9 kilometer swim, followed by a 90 kilometer bike ride, followed by a 21.1 kilometer run. Once the start gun goes off, you're on your own. There is no external fixes, there's no guarantees, there's no rewinds. If your body overheats, if your nutrition fails, if the wind turns, if the weather changes, if doubt creeps in, it's just you, your ability to adapt, and that's pretty much it. You start with a plan because you always go in with a plan. The race teaches you something very, very quickly. That plan will change. So, looking at these two examples, what I want you to understand is that endurance sport doesn't just resemble life, it rehearses it. And standing here today, I could tell you about some crazy experiences, right? I could tell you about the time that I went for an expedition, a 2-week expedition through a snowstorm in the Himalayas to climb a technical peak. Or I could tell you about the time my friends made an igloo and I wanted to go visit it. And they dropped the location, and that's not a Google pin. That's basically a latitude, longitude. And then you take a compass and you use orienteering skills, old school way, to go like a treasure hunt and find the igloo. Why? Because I wanted to. Or I could tell you about the intensity of racing for 5+ hours at an average heart rate of 170 to 180 BPM. Or I could tell you about sitting, imagining, and bringing to life one of the country's largest multi-day, multi-sporting events. And these stories would excite you. They might overwhelm a few of you, but they definitely inspire most of you. And I would love for all of that. But what I would love so much more is for you to take away from my learnings things that you can apply into your routine. Because the one constant between both sport and life is change. Now, my foundation was laid early, right? I grew up as a child of the armed forces, which meant change is not an interruption. It was the curriculum. New cities every 2 years, new schools, new friends, new languages, new culture, new food. So, starting over, it was not dramatic, it was normal. Discomfort became familiar, comfort a little suspicious. I saw my parents live whole lives beyond work and home. Sport was a non negotiable in our house. It's part of physical development, neuromuscular development. Curiosity and creativity, it's part of personality development. And there was no gender bias, only equal opportunity. With equal opportunity came the onus of equal expectation. So, one of my greatest influences is my mother. So, I'll introduce you to her. The year is 1969. It's an 18-year-old girl. She's learning to ride a two-wheeler on a Yezdi. That's my mom. Today, she's 75. She still has a two-wheeler, and she still takes herself around. So she, after marriage, after children, continued to learn, right? She painted, she designed, she sculpted. She returned back to the workforce after I left the house, and I'm the younger one. Without explicitly saying so, she taught me one thing. Life does not shrink with responsibility. It expands if you let it. Another lesson she gave me still anchors me till today. Whatever you do, pour your entire self into it. Even if you're doing something as basic as sweeping the floor, aim to be the best sweeper in the world. My interpretation of this: there are no shortcuts to excellence, only complete immersion. Half-hearted effort produces half-lived lives. And life? Now, life is a matter of choices, and every choice you make makes you. This sentence in itself sounds very simple, maybe even comforting to a certain extent, until you realize one thing, that this is actually a responsibility. It's not just a quote, because every choice that you don't make is also a choice. I'm standing here today not because of luck, not because of talent, not because of perfect timing. I'm standing here because of a series of courageous, imperfect decisions that I have made repeatedly, and most of the time without certainty. Now, I wasn't meant to be on a stage like this last year. The conversation happened, the invitation came, and then for whatever reason, it didn't work out, right? And of course, at that point in time, I was disappointed. I wondered if I've missed my opportunity. And then life happens, right? You move forward. Fast forward 1 year later, here I am. This is an example of one of the hardest lessons that we can learn. Trust the timing of your life. You are not falling behind. You are not failing. You are not late. You are exactly where you're meant to be. You are becoming. What is meant for you will not bypass you. It will arrive when you're ready to carry it. Similarly, when I heard this topic, wings of possibility, I didn't imagine anything dramatic. I didn't imagine overnight success. I imagined something far quieter, far more human. To me, wings represent freedom. Freedom to act before certainty arrives. Freedom to pursue curiosity before confidence shows up. Because understand this, possibility does not occur before action, it occurs because of action. And every time you try something new, there's only going to be two outcomes. You're either going to succeed or you're going to fail. Either outcome moves you forward because you know, right? So failure is not a verdict. In fact, on the contrary, it's proof of participation. Fear of failure, on the other hand, how many of us get held back because of that? Now, that is the fastest way to stay average. And nothing wrong with average. Average is nice, average is acceptable, average is comforting. But excellence, now that is a different beast. That will always ask you for courage, and courage will always involve risk. Now, personally, my path has never been linear. I'll just talk you through it. Started with finance, IT, sales, chasing national records as a marathoner, being sidelined by injury, rebuilding through yoga, returning through cycling. Meanwhile, organizing events, working within government systems, talent identification, coaching, nutrition, mountaineering, ultra distances, triathlon. At one point, I even drifted very far from who I truly was. Rediscovering myself, that also wasn't dramatic. It was slow, it was intentional, it was honest. So, progress is not a straight line, it's a spiral. And life, it's not going to hand you wings once, it's going to ask you to build them every time you fall. Every time we talk about possibility, we talk about imagination. And imagination, we know, takes up space. Yet, here we are. We are living in a world terrified by stillness, terrified of stillness. We glorify being busy. We confuse motion with progress. We trade reflections for notifications. So here's a very simple but radical idea. Stop confusing being busy with being productive. Step into the silence. That is where original thought lives. Very easy for me to say step into silence. How do we do that in today's day and age? hyperconnectivity, information overload. It is not going to be a dramatic leap. It's going to be small baby steps. That's how big journeys are made, right? Start with something as basic as putting your phone away for 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening. Learn to sit with yourself. Learn to understand yourself. Learn to understand what makes you you, what makes you happy. Another truth which has shaped me deeply: you are the average of the 5 people you spend maximum amount of time with. So ask yourself this: who are your 5? Do they shrink you? Do they expand you? Choose those people who give you wings while keeping you humble. And also understand one very important thing: your life is a book. Some people are chapters. Stop trying to convert a chapter into a book, right? Outgrowing a situation is not betrayal. In fact, it's a prerequisite for growth. It is evolution. Now, while success has been my benchmate and given me company most of my life, but I think the real teacher has been loss. The sudden death of a pet of mine shook me deeply. I found refuge in horses. It was not a hobby, it was healing. For 10 years, I immersed myself into it completely. Training, learning, competing, teaching. National titles came, they came later. But what mattered more was the question I started asking myself then, which I ask myself till today. Do I see myself doing this for the rest of my life? If the answer is an enthusiastic yes, I stay. Anything less than that, I'm out of there. Excellence is not about the finish line. It is about falling in love with the chase. The result of that chase is possibly crossing the finish line, but that's not excellence. Injury has tested this particular belief of mine the hardest. So, running 180 kilometers every 9 days to reaching a point where I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. I would wince in pain if I had to put my feet down on the floor. I could have chosen bitterness, very easy. Instead, I chose adaptation. I studied human anatomy, I studied nutrition, I studied my body, I applied those principles to myself. I understood my weaknesses, I worked on my weaknesses until they became my strengths. I stayed curious. So the obstacle never really blocked the path. In fact, in this particular case, it became the invitation to walk the path. Perspective, therefore, is what defines trajectory. Now, I'm not any better than anyone else, right? I'm very basic. I too have chased society's version of success, whether it's job titles, pay grades, approvals, lifestyle, until I realized this: living for other people's expectations is exhausting. Blaming others, it only delays growth. Growth begins with accountability. Accountability starts where excuses end. So once this happens, it's very easy to take decisions, very clear. Convincing everyone else of those decisions, the validity of those decisions, very different story in itself. And this is where boundaries come in. Now, protect your boundaries fiercely. Why? They are not walls. They are runways to your dreams. And growth, it isn't about perfection. Salvador Dali once said, "Never fear perfection, for you will not achieve it." I say, chase perfection, chase it obnoxiously. It is in the process of chasing perfection that you grow. Growth is intention. Today, I can say with clarity, I'm almost always where I want to be. That's not because life is easy. It's because I'm honest. It's because I have integrity. It's because I've learned to say no, possibly as many times, if not more, than the number of times that I have said yes. When I look into the mirror, I recognize the girl looking back. I like her. I respect her. To me, that is my definition of success. So, this brings me back to the fact that life is still a matter of choices, and every choice you make is still making you. Your wings will not arrive fully formed, they are built quietly, in doubt, in chaos, in courage, in moments when no one is watching. So, when you leave this room today, I don't want you to think of what is possible. I want you to go home. I want you to disconnect. I want you to process everything that has gone on today. Have a good sleep. But tomorrow morning, when you wake up and look into the mirror, I want you to ask yourself, what choice am I willing to make today? Because the moment that you start choosing honestly, you stop imagining wings and you start to grow them. Thank you.